Hello and welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports and what I think is some pretty exciting news for us as bike shops and for you as a consumer, because as you saw from the title, Stages is back in business. I could go through the history of it, but I'd rather not. But it had something to do with Giant, then they didn't buy them, then they went out of business. So let me read their email that came to us as dealers. And so, put on my old man glasses. After shipping our first power meters to U.S. customers in May, we made it our goal to reopening our international operations in June. So May in the U.S., June international, and they made it. Our global relaunch coincided with Eurobike trade show in Germany, June 25th. Now, I had heard about that, but I still didn't, I didn't believe that they were going to be back in business anytime soon. Our mission is simple: bring back our iconic Stages power meters and support the riders and dealers who rely on them. So, this email was sent to us as IBD, individual or independent, whatever it's called, independent bicycle dealers. We have reached a point where our production and inventory to be able to welcome back the independent dealers. We'd love to get you signed up. And of course, I've had an account for well over a decade. So if you are not familiar with what we're talking about, the Stages power meters, this is one of the very, I think this is first generation. And I had several of these because it's a left crank arm. And even though I'm mechanically inclined, and this is what I do for a living, I just didn't want to be moving around from bike to bike to bike. Now, that's the thing. If you are someone who only owns one bike, or maybe a small number of bikes, and you're mechanically inclined, you may want to get a Stages left crank arm system. You can also, there's 4i. Most of you that watch this channel know that I say it that way. They have...
It's 1 o'clock.
Well, it's 1 o'clock. They also have a left crank arm system, a left-right system, which is what Stages has. And then they both do factory install. In other words, you send them your crankset and they will install this little pod on here. Now, you'll notice that there's all this electrical tape around here. I've been riding the Favero Asioma pedals look platform for a very long time. But when I went to do Paris, the battery life on that pedal system is only 50 hours. Now, only, right? Most people don't ride that much in a week to have to worry about 50-hour battery life. It's more than enough. But this being an unsupported 1,200 kilometer event, which ended up being like 1,226, 762 mile event, you don't want to have to deal with your pedals running out of charge. Pedal time for that event was 51 hours, right? So 762 miles, 51 hours. So at some point, I would have had to charge those pedals. That's kind of inconvenient when you're on an Ultra. So I switched. I took the power meter pedals off and I put on this Durace Generation 1. That's how long I've had this thing with this little pod here. But its Achilles heel is its battery access door. There's a little battery access door, an O-ring, and a 2032, which you've seen these batteries forever. They're in heart rate straps. They're in the shifters for SRAM, and they're everywhere, right? It's 2032 battery. coin cell battery, I guess they call them. And that access door needs to be wrapped, or I've seen people use heat shrink. I've seen people use an inner tube surrounding it. So that's always been its problem. Its Achilles heel, if you will. So that's why I've always used my pedal system, because the battery is internal and all you have is an external plug onto the pedal. So there is no access door, there's nothing, no way to get water ingress. So, well, I should say, but for some folks who only have one bike, the pedal system doesn't make that much sense, because, well, I've only got one bike. I don't need to move it around from bike to bike to bike, which is my situation. On any given day, I can decide to ride this bike or that bike. And the pedal system is really, really good for that, because, for example, when I used to race my tandem on 500 milers, there's no way to put a left crank arm because if you're not familiar, the tandem cranksets are completely different. As a matter of fact, and also on my fixed gear bike, that's also a different type of crank system. In my case, it's a Campagnolo, so there's no stages crankset for that. So this is the newer version. This is what I'm using now, the Pro RS, right? So Road Shimano Pro RS. But this is exciting news, because I just clicked on their website, and you're looking at, for a Dura-Ace level crankset, about 5 and a quarter, and then you've got a 200-hour battery life with a 1.5% accuracy. So and these little pods, they don't weigh much. So for people that are weight weenies and like, oh, I don't want to get a power meter because it's going to make my bike 100 grams heavier, because some people obsess about the dumbest shit. I had some guy today, because I was talking about Lake shoes, and they're like, oh, they're too heavy and too expensive. I'm like, and I know it's a dude. It has to be a dude. Women are not confrontational like that, because this is like the third thing. I'm like, stop worrying about grams. People worry about the dumbest shit. Anyway, it's really cool that this is back as an option. So if you look at the overall landscape, you've got pedal systems, you've got crank systems, and then you've got, or left crank arm systems, and then you have spider systems, right? So on the right side of the bike, and you've got, like, let's say SRAM, you got these chain rings integrated to the power meter, so many different versions of a power meter. But these things are essential, and I say this often, and people get their panties up in a twist. Everyone should have a power meter. Everyone should have a power meter. So the other thing that's really cool about Stages is, for many years, when Shimano no longer is manufacturing that crank arm, because they're no longer manufacturing that group set, they can't continue that product forward. Stages can't continue this product forward. So now they blow these things out. They are at a very, very good discount from the original retail. So if you're someone who is always buying latest and greatest group sets, so for example, the 9200 group set, I'll be honest with you, this is on the left side of the bike. When you park your bike, you should be parking it on the right side, right? Right side, drive side, facing out, pretty side, facing out. Nobody cares about what's on the left crank arm. Buy some of these crank arms at a ridiculously reduced cost, And now you have the opportunity to have power at a reasonable cost, and you're good to go, right? So it's the same thing with the 4II. Personally, I prefer the pedals because I can get left and right balance without spending too much. If I were to look at, let's see, for left and right, let's just see where they're at. So yeah, left and right on a Dura-Ace power meter, that's $12.59. So you're going from 5 something here to $12.59, but of course you're getting a Dura-Ace crankset, right? So that's expensive to begin with, but now you're getting, the chain rings. You're getting all the stuff on the right side, and also a power meter, right? So it's up to you how much you want to spend. For most people, the left crank arm is enough, because basically it's just a training tool, and for most people, they don't need to know left and right. How much power is my left leg doing compared to my right? Personally, I need that. I broke my right femur in 2014. I have a very bad problem with my left leg, so I'm always monitoring what my left and my right legs are doing, right? I have like a pulled muscle strain. I don't know what it is. In fact, I've got a annual physical today, and I'm going to ask my primary care doctor, like, look, I need some MRI. I need something. I've been going to PT 12 sessions and nothing's getting better. So I'm injured and I've been injured now for 2 years. So I've not been able to ride my best for that period of time. But it is important that I have a left and right metering system, because I can see it live. I see what's happening, and I can see it on my downloads. So for some people, left crank arm is enough. For some folks, get a left and right metering system, whether it be pedals, stages, 4II, or SRAM, or whatever system that you prefer. And of course, I'm a dealer for all of those. So if you need a power meter, contact me directly, revcycling@gmail.com. That's revcycling@gmail.com. It's a great way to support the channel, because the ad revenue is just not making it for me. But yeah, put some questions down below. If you're a long-time Stages user and you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad that they're back. If you're a long-time Stages user and you need a battery access door and O-ring, I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to hear if it's been a positive story, I'd like to hear that too. But I know a lot of folks have a nightmarish story with their battery access door. My situation is the same. I've had water intrusion, and I've had to let the thing sit out and all kinds of stuff, trying to hope that it resets or something, take the battery in and out. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. So I've had the same issues too. Now, I don't ride in the rain, but like there was a 8K, 600K. So it was 8,000 meters of climbing. So 26,000, whatever number of feet. 600K, so 8K, 600K. The 600K was 370 something miles. And it rained all night until the morning, which is rare in San Diego. It was in May, the first week in May. May the 4th be with you. So it was on the 4th. And yeah, I'm still trying to clean up that file, because it's got just ridiculous power numbers through the night, which, I want the other data, but I got to go in and clean out stuff that is in Training Peaks anyway. Go in and clean out stuff that's, saying I'm doing 300 watts for, 10 minutes, which of course I can't do that. So I'm just your Cat 6 rider. So that's not the power I put out. All right, so I'd love to hear from you. Please like and subscribe. Make some comments down below. Let's get a discussion going, and we will see you up the road.